Good evening, everyone. This evening I am doing a reading on the four individuals that were brutally murdered in Moscow, Idaho. My deepest condolences to the family. This reading is in no way, shape, or form meant to misdirect, disrespect, or make a mockery at all of the situation at hand. For all the reasons why, I will say that this is for entertainment purposes only. However, what I do know is that my readings are on point, and not to toot my own horn, but take what you will from it. But as I said, for all the reasons why, I'm saying this is for entertainment purposes only, but I have been reading cards since 2011. So we're going to get started with the initial question. I have a few decks. I've asked multiple questions, so this video will be in different parts. I'm focusing more on the cards this evening versus a full body video, so there's that. So I'm sorry if it looks a little funky at all, but let's just pay attention to the message. It's late where I am, so let's just get right into it. So the initial question that I asked was, how many people were involved with the situation? Now, keep in mind, involved doesn't just mean with the actual murder. However, it can be just people who are involved altogether who do have information. So the initial card is ruined and it came out reverse. And what you'll see with my cards is most of my cards, for the most part, I do upright, and if it just randomly comes out reversed, then there's that. So here we go. So we have here the Ruin card. And what we can see is that this would be the Ten of Swords in original tarot decks, right? However, this talks of deception. And the thing here is, if you can see, that there's a spoon in the middle with some sort of drug, maybe heroin. And it looks like maybe some type, yeah, it's heroin. And I wanted to say that the other part was needle, but maybe that's not. However, you see the spoon here in the middle of the drug. So this is indicative of the number of people involved, right? Possibly between 8 and 10 people. But there was some sort of deceit, some backstabbing, and it has to do, perhaps someone was under the influence, heavy influence. I'm not talking about just marijuana or alcohol. This is some sort of heavy, mind-altering drug, if you will. Meth, some sort of, I don't know what to call it, dope, heroin, X, Molly, something heavy, and maybe more specifically meth, fentanyl, something heavy here, right? And someone, the individuals within this situation, it was somebody who felt slighted in all of this. So things began to break down, right? And we can see it's dealing with swords, so that can deal with the intellect and physical, the physical representation of such. And so the next is indolence. So perhaps while on this drug, it made some of the individuals at hand in the home that were attacked, and even, well, let's just say everyone in the building, even those that did not become victims. This speaks to indolence, some sort of laziness. So a lot of people are asking, well, why didn't the two downstairs hear anything? Well, for one, sometimes it's our own higher self protecting us. 2, we're in a deep sleep. 3, there could be some sort of overindulgence, maybe just drinking or drug use, what have you, that had them out for the count, right? This could also be what triggered the individual at hand. But what we can see here is 8 cups, right? And we can also see that one is spilled over. Okay, so let's continue. And that'll all come together. this was all triggered or ended up escalating due to this some sort of drug use. There were definitely some sort of drugs involved. I'm not going to say that it wasn't somebody, I'm not saying everyone, but somebody there, this either had to do with drug sale or somebody on drugs. All right? So, next we have the tower. So all in all, things escalated quite quickly, okay? Somebody saw an opportunity to be had. There was definitely somebody or somebody's, multiple people watching. And there was some sort of respect or gain that was that was desired from this, okay? And with that being said, there could have also been a situation where somebody was saying too much, doing too much, and it made another individual feel some kind of way, right? They felt like they needed to be on the defense, but maybe we're not that vocal about it. This could also, with all these multiple hands, right? There's 7 here. This could even deal with maybe some multiple people. So perhaps a sorority of sorts, sorority, fraternity, what have you, or just college students. So then my next question here is, and trust it'll all come together because we have got a lot to go over. The next question here was who was attacked initially? Who was this individual or individuals? Who were they going to attack initially? Okay, what was their main goal? Well, they were looking for this Princess of Swords. Okay, so in this deck, I think this is the Urban Tarot. This is listed as the activist. So maybe somebody was going to say something, they were talking too much, they were doing too much, or the suspects at hand may have thought that this individual was going to spread some sort of information very quickly, and they couldn't have that happen. Or this could simply be a representative or a dark-haired female. Now, I know that 2 of the young ladies, I believe it's Kaylee and Maddie, the 2 best friends. If I'm not mistaken, one of them is not a natural blonde. I think the one with blue eyes is, and the one with dark hair isn't. But either way, nevertheless, it could represent that particular individual, right? But the way that I see these 2 cards together, we have this Princess of Swords and the Devil. Now, yes, sometimes these certain cards can correlate with signs, but here we're going to use it more so as energies, right? And so when I asked who were these suspects going into the home for, these were the 2 cards that came out, the Devil, the Princess of Swords and the Devil. Now, this can be an actual individual as the Devil. And when I shuffled another deck, you're going to see the Devil piggyback again when I clarify this card. So let's take it first as 2 individuals in this particular situation, okay? So this can be the 2 individuals that were in the home, the couple, which would have been Ethan and, is it Zana, right? But the couple that was in the home. Now, one could have been, and this is pure speculation on my part, right? But regarding the cards, this could be this person's partner. Perhaps they had their own challenges with indulging in certain aspects of life, right? More specifically, it can be drugs, it can be women, it can be a lot, multiple things. So this could just be depicting the couple themselves. So maybe one could have been into a darker lifestyle in the sense of hustling, if you will. Or this could just be their overall energy or what others think about this particular individual, what they would have thought about this couple's boyfriend. Now, looking at the pictures, I personally don't get that feel from him, but one never knows, right? So, or maybe he's a Capricorn, right? The other side of this coin is that perhaps the main individual was this Princess of Swords, which I'm convinced is, well, sort of, that this is the young lady who's in the room with her boyfriend, Ethan. I'm sorry, I don't want to get her name wrong if it's Xana or Shanna or what have you. But when you look closer at these cards, right, the interesting thing is that if the eyes were focused on her for whatever reason, then this could have been somebody physically waiting in the bathroom, literally in the bathroom, hiding, right? And if that's the case, this person could have been high. And I've been getting the vibe that whomever or whatever individuals partook in this, that somebody was absolutely under the influence, okay? So this person could have literally been waiting in the bathroom. And another thing that I was picking up on is that somebody at some point might have been snatched and held hostage within the home. But we'll get to that. So just bear with me. Okay. So, like I said, this could actually represent the couple or an individual that snuck into the home, was literally in the bathroom, and seized the moment and could have attacked someone at that point within the bathroom, or they waited until the coast was clear. But let's continue. So when I clarify these cards, I got the Devil again. I'm sorry, you can't really see that. The Devil again, Seven of Pentacles, and the King of Swords. Right? So what is this showing? Let me show you this way. So the Devil card, Seven of Pentacles, and the King of Swords. So we can see that this is somebody waiting outside. This can be an older, more mature male, or he looks older. Could be an air sign individual, or just someone who's very mentally agile, swift, quick, genius, if you will. Very calculated, right? Could just look older. But often when we see a king, he's usually over the age, well, he can often be over the age of 35, but it can also be somebody who's younger who comes off as more mature. And we can see these trees around this individual and how they're trying to hide. Then we have the Seven of Pentacles. Now, to me, this is two different people outside. Okay, maybe a red-haired male, maybe. Or maybe they just depicted as such, right? In this card. And the Seven of Pentacles. So two different individuals, and perhaps they had two different weapons. And I want to say they may not have been right on top of each other, but a little bit of a distance from one another, but both looking to the home or to this situation, looking at this particular individual, because the Devil card can represent a Capricorn individual or someone who correlates with this card, like someone who may be serving people's addictions, drugs, sex, money. It's a lot of things that can be that people have addictions to, right? But here I'm picking up more so it can be drugs, or it could be an individual who is just quite obsessive. But we have two individuals outside, I'm convinced. We see one is by a tree, and maybe one is by a plant or closer to mountains, perhaps. Or that's just, we can chalk that up as that just being the imagery of the card. Take what you will from it. Also, someone was waiting for the perfect timing. They planted this seed and they were waiting for it to grow, if you will. Okay? So, Let's go on. I don't want to put these out of order. So let's keep them in order. All right. So, all right. So then the next question here. Or clarification is, I asked who specifically is involved in this murder. Okay. The Prince of Cups. Sometimes we can see this as a water sign individual, but here I'm thinking more of somebody who is definitely absorbed in very Neptunian things, a lot of fantasy, role play comes to mind. The school may actually have this huge auditorium. This individual might even be in the film program, the filming program. If they're not, what would you call that word? If they're not specifically in the filmmaker program, this is an individual who wanted to evoke emotion from others. So they set the stage themselves, okay? This person hid a lot of emotions and is an overthinker, but can be very emotional, all right? And they may have very well had a lot of people fooled. There could even be more on camera or more videos that we are not aware of. Nevertheless, what I find to be interesting is that the next card is Fortitude, which again, 2 men. So this automatically made me think of New York City. I'm from New York, and on 34th and 8th, there is a huge post office. So that's what this is depicting, and it's snowing. So from what I can recall from the videos of 1112 King Street in Moscow, Idaho, is that there was snow on the ground. And so I'm saying all that to say, there is someone in uniform, that could be somebody literally from the post office, who may have been observing odd things. Now, would it have been late at night? No, not necessarily, right? Could be. Or this could be, being that it gets darker earlier, this individual might have seen some things and, may not be saying too much, right? Or this can be somebody who's actually involved, or was some sort of mail sent to someone involving this whole situation, right? But was it sent by another party who actually had their hand in this? And this I deem to be an older man. Okay, so maybe it's something to do with mail, an individual in uniform. So yeah, that's definitely something to keep in mind. But this card here is Fortitude in this deck. Now, it could also be that one individual was the lead, the director, and another was playing their part, laying low, fronting. Maybe they were fronting as something else that night. Maybe in uniform, or acting as someone or something that they are not. May have literally had on a uniform, whether they work for the post office or not. But what I find interesting with this card is the direction, and how this correlates with where the the suspects involved in this case may have went, right? So when you dig deeper into this particular card, it speaks of, as we can see, post office and the north of Fifth Avenue, right? When the author of this card breaks this down. What I find to be interesting is that if I have my directions correct, from 1122 King Street, If one goes north, they will hit the post office. And guess what? It's off of 5th Avenue or 5th Street. And I believe it says something about northeast entrance. It's really interesting how that ended up correlating. So there may be some connection or this may be depicting where these individuals went that evening. Did they head up toward 5th Street near the post office? Or is this just showing someone that actually works in that post office in Monroe? It's just something to consider. So these two individuals, because let me get back to the initial question, but even though we ask an initial question, often the cards will show us what we need to see. So the next thing here, if these two individuals, this represents them going to fulfill their mission that evening, there was some sort of interference. Okay? And there's 8 swords in this card. So there could have been some sort of interference, or someone could have been literally on social media looking for certain information or reading certain information. Maybe it shifted their plan in a sense, or this was their initial plan, or while they were there was some sort of interference. Could be a literal television interference. Maybe they heard some sort of voices from the TV, or it could have just very well been voices as a whole. Another interference could be if somebody was on some sort of hallucinogen or some sort of drug. They may have been hearing things. That could have been interference. Also, if we think about it in another way, 4 were taken out, and it looks as though at least two individuals were involved here. That's 6, and then the two individuals downstairs. Okay. And that would bring us to 8. Some sort of interference that they were considering. But ultimately, power overtook them. And it looks as though there's something to do with some sort of taxi cab. Either a literal yellow taxi. It could be like a black sedan, a TLC, or something that looks as such. But there very well may have been one of these suspects that either knows a cab driver, is a cab driver, has a connection to one. But the car would be very obvious in the sense of it being a taxi cab. Okay? So, it's a possibility. And also, this interference triggered the suspect or suspects into power mode, where they felt like, okay, well, everything was in their hands. They couldn't, afford any mishaps. And that is when defeat happens. They decided to gamble with the situation. It's like as if their initial plan went left. The initial plan went left. But, however, this next card, as I said, is defeat. Right? And we have the swords here. 5 swords, right? So 4 were slain. And then it might have been one individual that carried this out. But let's go back and forth between these two things. Because let's be honest, if somebody feels slighted, was owed money, or this has to do with some sort of drugs, or they were getting high and they had an episode, a person who is high, one individual that's high, they can absolutely take out 4 different individuals. Maybe somebody who's sober, they'd have more of a challenge doing so, unless they were just absolutely skilled and trained. But I can totally see where I've seen a lot in my day, and drugs are one hell of a mind-altering muscle. But when this all went down, and maybe there was actual gambling. I don't really get that per se, but there was more of a gamble. But there may have been very well much so that there was monies involved. So when all was said and done, this person or persons got the hell out of Dodge, and they got the hell out quickly. This could be an individual who they didn't have a car. They literally were on a bike or a moped. Perhaps they work at a pizza shop. The bike may have had a basket. Like, all these things are to be considered, right? Even down to the shoe, what he's wearing in this image. And there's a building behind him. However, one or the total of individuals could have very well have been on a bike or bikes. A part of me is thinking, too, they might have gone in different directions, but nevertheless. Or this person could work for a pizza shop or something to literally do with pizza, deliveries, or just showing us that everything happened swiftly. And this person was out. And honestly, that would make a lot of sense versus taking an entire vehicle. Because they could just be out. You know, who's really going to take the time to, pull somebody over on a bike, right? Well, there's levels to it. But all things considered, if someone would have called 911, the suspect could have possibly been thinking like, okay, well, what's more likely to bring heat, being in a vehicle or on an actual two-wheeled bike. Now, I'm going slowly. There's a lot to cover because I don't know that this will all be done this evening. There's another thing here. I'm going between 2 and 3, but it looks more so like it was 2 other individuals. But let me show you this. Virtue. I believe in this deck, this is the 3 of Wands. This is the Urban Tarot deck. We have the fire truck and a ladder and an individual with all black, and it looks like they have a backpack on. And you know how there was that ladder on the side of the building now? I don't know anyone who would really take the risk of, climbing up on that ladder and going through the window or waiting by a window in the front of the house. Well, let's think about it. Stranger things have happened. It could be where somebody else, if somebody was actually scoping out this home for however long, they may have actually seen somebody get locked out, climb up on that ladder, go in the window, right? Okay, but let's think about it logically. Would they want to be seen? No, not unless they were very confident in not being seen and going through the front. Because that little side ladder that's in a lot of the videos and images of the home that these 4 individuals were in, they could have literally went up those stairs, right? And waited by a window. However, it seems more likely that an individual wants to be on the low. They're going to want to be in the dark, in the cut. So behind the home, which made way more sense, especially with that dark window on the first floor. So maybe this is just showing us that this individual, they went up some sort of stairs. I wonder if there was any type of fire in the area or some reason why the fire department would have had to go out that night. And around that same time, this individual is breaking into the home, or individuals. Because one could have been breaking in, another could have been, outside looking out on the literal ladder, or even decided, men have a different type of strength. You know, when they do those pull-ups and stuff, who knows how tall this individual was? How do we know that they did not get up on that deck in the back of the home, right? But they climbed up some sort of stairs, or literally when they were in the home, they went up some sort of stairs, right? However, here, but maybe there's a connection or a correlation to maybe some kind of fire department having to be called out sometime that evening, and they cross paths or what have you. Now, as I said, I had already shuffled these cards. Here's the other thing. When this individual got inside, whatever went down, which we're going to clarify, it looks as though one of the women within the home, or it doesn't have to be a woman, but it very well can be, because the strength card could be a Leo individual, is one that tries to calm a situation. They're trying to utilize the most peaceful ways of what they know about a particular individual to soothe them, to get what they desire out of the situation. And then, I'll come back to that. Oh, so in this card, this lion, when the author or the illustrator of this deck mentioned her inspiration behind this card, and in that, this lion is she got the inspiration to put this lion in here. The author, the illustrator of this deck, to from in front of one of the New York City public libraries on Fifth Avenue in New York City, which is very interesting, right? So there could be some sort of correlation with library, post office, and perhaps it's a woman with glasses. Doesn't have to be, or just depicting a woman or another individual who was trying to soothe the situation, right? Maybe there was an argument. They were trying to soothe the individual, or maybe this is when everything popped off and they thought that they could tame the situation. Then there's another point where there's some celebrating, right? And then now we see three individuals. One has a ring. I don't know. I was trying to see if, were all three of these women's arms, but because the man, it looks like it could be a man's arm in the middle, but nevertheless, it's the three individuals that are celebrating. So again, we see a lot of cups in this reading, a lot of overindulgence, drinking. Look, if somebody came into that home earlier, which we're about to get into, if somebody came into that home earlier and was hiding out, they could have very well put something in alcohol and some kind of liquor bottle, some sort of sedatives or drugs, roofies. It could be a number of things, right? Or it could just be pure overindulgence, where it's just showing that there's an overindulgence taking place here. And here's the kicker. So we can even say this particular individual goes up these stairs, right? But again, I believe that there's either two or between 1 and 3 individuals, but more specifically 2 to 3. Because remember, don't forget these guys, right? Perhaps those other two I just showed are staking out, right? This individual goes upstairs, they go inside. Maybe perhaps they have some concerns about who they may bump into, right? But let's just hold that, because this can go a number of ways. So perhaps they're watching from outside, and they're watching. Maybe there was arguments going inside, but I feel like this card here is more specifically to someone who was trying to tame a particular situation. And that in all of this, there's an individual watching all this go on. Now look at this. This is the Hermit card in this deck. Look. First of all, it looks like he's on the side of a building. It looks like he's hiding or smoking. He has some link to his hair in this card. Now, does that have to be exact? No. But we'll take it all into account. It looks like a 2-headed dog or 2 dogs looking out a window or out of a door, and he's hiding. Now, this is very interesting because Look, it looks like more than one. It looks like it looks like a couple of windows, okay? So was he hiding out back, or was he in the front? Like, was this man hiding somewhere actually on the building, on the back deck, or on that second floor, where we see that ladder, right? Waiting for a moment to be able to climb into a window. It looks more like a window to me. Maybe somebody came out to walk a dog. Maybe somebody heard noise. And it looks like they're smoking something. I'm not really sure. It's some kind of, I would think it's some kind of smoking. So this is very, very kind of intense. So right after this card comes the Justice card. I think when it comes down to, for one, what the police know, somebody's turning a blind eye, or the police as a whole, or a squad. They could very well be turning a blind eye to things. Maybe this person has the person who, or persons, or the suspects in this case, perhaps they have a connection to law enforcement. All right? Maybe they have a buddy in law enforcement. Maybe this buddy from law enforcement was with them that evening. And perhaps there's something the police are not saying about what they know about this entry of the home. Something they know, but they're not saying regarding how this individual got in, because to me, I'm picking more up on this individual going through that bedroom window on the main floor, perhaps hiding out there. Maybe the girls brought the dog out for a walk or heard something or what have you, and there's some kind of officer or man in uniform covering it up, or this man in uniform is also involved. But there can be an issue with justice. Not only could they be a police officer, but they could be security at the school, security at the library, or a post office or postal worker. Well, I don't think postal officers wear badges, but you get where I'm going with that. But it also looks like the police, I won't say their hands are tied, but they're not saying much, but they're definitely turning a blind eye to justice. And there's a lot of corruption in this world, especially in the court system and police departments and what have you. I'm not saying that's the case, but all things, you gotta consider this as, all things here. So this was some of this. Keep these in order. And then the buck. There was some drinking. I don't know if it was lean. There was something going on. There was a lot going on. It's more than overindulgence though. Like a spiked drink, and maybe not a roofie, but there was something else going on. I think this is at the house at this point. Maybe there's more drinks going around, people enjoying themselves. I'm getting the feeling that if this individual was able to get into the home when nobody was there, maybe either they were in the home hiding out, or when the girls came outside to walk the dog at this point or let the dog out, this individual hid for a minute or then went in when he realized that the coast was clear, or at least he thought such. This can go many different ways. But you would think he may very well be in the home. But that's something I'll come back to. All right. So where are we at now? This is going to be a long reading. And it's late. So, and once I complete all, because this is only we're halfway through. I have more cards here. But I'm definitely getting a little tired right now, and I want to have my energy up to continue this reading. But I'll show you this as well. Somebody was watching a couple. I do think, because I shuffled different decks, I read from different decks, asked different questions, and it all came down to somebody or somebody's suspects were watching this couple, and this couple had some sort of money, or at least they thought so. They had something of value. So maybe they watched when they came in. There was some sort of loss that maybe, like, this is definitely a man, some sort of loss from the man. Right? But here's the interesting thing. It looks more so like maybe this is where, once this individual is in the home, because there's certain questions I ask, and then there's other cards where it'll tell us the story. And so, did the girls wake up when this particular individual was watching the couple, or after he had spilled some their blood? And I hate to sound insensitive, because I'm not trying to be. Just trying to watch my words. And if I'm not mistaken, it's like some kind of cobblestone that was popping up in my head yesterday. So is there anything to do with cobblestone that has to do with this case? So did these girls see what happened? Or did they, even if it wasn't that night, where they saw that there was maybe some sort of obsession or somebody paying entirely too much attention to this couple? So, all right, so I'm going to stop there for now. We're at 42 minutes and 24 seconds, and I don't want to rush the reading. So I will be back later on to continue this reading. All right? Thank you for tuning in. Good night.